Well, firstly, I'm mindful of being in some fabulous company tonight, and I'm so honored. And I'm particularly grateful to all the people who keep the lights on for poetry in South Africa in these particularly dark times. Um, and there are so many of you who are promoting poetry, helping poets to keep writing. Douglas there, helping with the AFBOB Poetry Project. And those of you who keep this venue and the other ones going, thank you for the work you do. And thank you for hosting me tonight. And it's just such a delight to be in the company of of poets. I've probably got about a 40-minute read. I haven't actually timed it. I went through a particularly fertile period around about April. It came from nowhere after having nothing for about 3 or 4 years. And it disappeared as fast as it arrived. But I did get a whole series of what I call prose poems out. That is my preferred form, I think, because I don't have to think about line breaks. And it's also how the work comes to me. So these are really a series of very personal reflections. As I was looking through them before I started reading, I thought, oh my word, I hope I'm not going to start crying. But if I do, well, that's where we are. The first one called Everybody's. I have closed my new phone to listen for a poem trying to arrive. Maybe I'll be able to write a song to mobile it. The metal chimney clicks a counterpoint to the voice note Jim's been longing to receive. Logs from the garden flare in the fireplace. Jim's brother posts about rare bird species using Latin names. A voice note flies in from San Francisco from the daughter he has missed with words he has not found. I know Jim's daughter only by her photographs, images glanced over his shoulder of the Oakland cactus garden, her trip to Machu Picchu, a heavy metal concert in Prague. I overhear their speakerphone conversations, notice how his foot waggles back and forth with eager delight at the sound of her voice. I know her in the way my own heart leaps when my daughter's name appears on my screen. The next poem is called When We Raise Our Hands to Begin Salah. Your mother works at her computer standing up while listening to Slavonic dances. This should improve her posture and strengthen her lumbar spine, but it hurts her feet. She looks for images of isiXhosa textbooks for blog posts. She drops the hashtags Setswana and Sesotho in social media designed to titillate the woke without blowing up. She has bitten her nails and the tip of her index finger is bloodied. It will grow out if she stops picking at it for a day. She clicks the laptop shut with more force than she intends, glad to have clients who think she's good at what she does. She wonders if the Chinese stem cell research team can develop a vaccine to stave off Alzheimer's. Some days she says clapped when she means chapped. Words that sound the same come out when she speaks. Sometimes she writes things that don't make sense. This is the first sign. She wants to believe that the spelling errors are due to her too rapid typing. She practices bassoon. She meditates. She wears a light blocking eye cover to improve her sleep. She sets her alarm for 4 a.m. to scull by moonlight, eager to retain fitness and muscle tone to keep her weight down. Her partner is 25 years older than her. He says, "Be careful, darling. There are cowboys out there. They have no guns and no morals." In the dark, she looks for cop cars parked at the end of the peninsula. She's seen the arrest videos of joggers and surfers breaking lockdown, but hopes they only patrol in daylight. 4 mosques surround the lake. When the imams call the sleeping to Fajr, she gasps at the shooting stars on the dark horizon. She tells herself she is lucky. She tries to memorize poetry. She tells herself the future is unknown. As the chant ends, she heads home. The dawn sky turns orange, and she hoists her boat onto her shoulder and across the lawn. Pelicans fly overhead in silhouette against the dark mountains. Then come the flamingos and the distant cry of the fish eagle. She chants her own mantra as she washes down her boat, a prayer for neuroprotection. May there be self-renewal, proliferation, differentiation, and recombination. Your mother buys vitamin B and omega-3, wanting to give you a bottle to protect your brain. She buys you a china coffee mug with a cartoon cat catching fish. She hopes you will visit. She is almost relieved that you do not. When she burps after swallowing the fish oil capsules, she wishes she could afford salmon. Your mother has heard that no individual is responsible for another's disease or recovery from it. If that is true, who is responsible for preventing her own neural decline? Can we keep the lights off a little longer? When the president announces the COVID lockdown, I stop sleeping. I begin cooking with a different zeal, using garlic and ginger daily instead of on special occasions only. The former because my freelance work, playing contrabassoon in the Cape Philharmonic Orchestra, which was neither a regular nor a substantial source of income, has dried up. The latter because Ahmad, pointing his plump finger at the eastern skyline, tells me his people will not get COVID due to this, the perfect head of garlic balanced in the palm of his other hand. Fattened cloves bulge against the translucent sheath covering them. The entire head is a perfect replica of the dome of the mosque. Later, I will split each clove from the whole bulb with the pointy tip of my largest knife before using its broad, flat edge against the papery skin on the chopping board. My palms will press down against the cold blade, crushing the flesh under my weight. Lying awake at night, I reassure myself that I'm not taking medical advice from the vegetable seller with a pot belly. He looks like a perfect candidate for a stroke, but I thanked him for the recommendation before handing over the cash. As the new moon rises over the water, I wonder what he will eat before dawn to keep his strength up during the fast, hauling sacks of potatoes, crates of pumpkins, boxes of tomatoes off the truck and onto the shelves of his store. Intermittent fasting is the new thing. Each time I open my computer, I get adverts for it, even though the Muslim have been doing it for centuries. A year later, I have rolled up my sleeve for the phlebotomist. Since I started cooking in coconut oil, another belly roll flows over my waistband and my cholesterol is off the radar. The technician drawing my blood into a specimen tube says she won't be taking the vaccine when it comes to town. She doesn't believe in it. I imagine my mask hides my disbelief, but then, as if to comfort me, she says she'll wait 6 months to see whether her colleagues who've had it are responding well, and then she'll get it too. I nod, saying nothing. I asked my nutritionist about a keto-style shock treatment to get a head start on the weight loss. Behind her mask, her mouth registered disapproval, her eyes widened, and her earrings swung to and fro. Bodies like homeostasis, she said. I must get religious about exercise again. Half an hour of cardio, every day, not negotiable. How soon after sunset can one no longer plainly distinguish a white thread from a black one? According to the Quran, that is when the devout break their fast. Jim's tread on the stairs is heavy, unstable. My darling is 25 years older than me. He wears carbon fiber splints in his shoes. He has opened a bottle of wine. We have no power for the next 2 hours of load shedding. Jim has taken his little blue pill. The presence of the compound allicin in garlic increases the blood flow to the sexual organs in both men and women. Next time I visit the vegetable stall for avocados and bananas, I tell Ahmad that I am praying for Uncle Salih, his father, who no longer sits on a rickety stool on the street. I tell him this not because I want him to think me religious, but because it comforts him. It comforts me. We haven't seen the old man since the end of Ramadan 18 months ago, when his daughter, wearing a veil, plied us with date squares and sugar biscuits on white china decorated with a turquoise geometry. In his shuttered living room, I sipped sweet tea on a low couch, anxious to conceal my dismay at the sugar, wondering if I still had time for an extra gym session. I stared at the gilt-framed prayers in Arabic, wishing I still had faith. Jim is reading a collection of essays on consolation. His lips move involuntarily, framing the words. His fingers trail across the page. Behind the house, the carpenter hammers nails into the cross beams of the new stoep with a view over the indigenous succulent garden and the vegetable boxes where tiny flower-like fungi have popped up between the beetroot seedlings. On the sound system, I'd rather be a swallow than a snail. A grey heron alights on the jetty. A laser glides past the reeds at the mouth of the inlet. I recognize the sun-faced logo on its sail. In the lavender light of dusk, the symmetrical spinnaker appears pink. The call to worldly things behind, the call to leave worldly things behind sounds from the muezzin across the water. In a while, I will saute leeks on the gas hob by candlelight. Yes, I would. If I could, I surely would. I want to bow down to something bigger than myself on this autumnal evening. To the men I fillet in my bizarre dreams, to the shocking pink geraniums that grow so lushly around the chili bush, to the doctor who saved my life, to the chorus of weaver birds that sounds tonight less like a snake warning and more like a love song. Obviously, I took a lot of comfort from connecting with things on the internet. And one of the most spectacular things that I found was Brandon Phillips, who's the conductor of the orchestra. He started recording religious music in 4 parts. So he would record all of them and then mix them together. And this wasn't actually him that I'm referring to, but there was a part song for St. Patrick's Day in 8 parts, and it was a single bassoonist. And this piece is called Part Song with 8 Bassoons. I post a video of a bassoonist on my Facebook page on St. Patrick's Day, unsure quite why I'm doing it, yet analyzing my desire to be perceived as a nice person. There are reasons galore for posting on social media. I want to be connected, to share resources. I want to breed good karma and build networks I might need one day. I want to cover my bases, to be seen as pretty and active, to be recognized as an activist, which is not exactly the same as being an activist. But still, I must withhold ugly stuff I don't want out there. My daughter's addiction, my failed relationships, my transgender youngest child, whose name I can no longer say, their deadbeat dad, who pulled the plug on their financial support, which is what I must do too, but judge me not. The bassoonist plays Irish tune from Country Derry by Percy Granger, and I envy his beautiful sound, his accurate intonation, his bright red hair. He has recorded all 8 parts separately and synthesized them in a single video. I imagine playing with 7 other bassoons, sustaining an inner part, leaning into the melody line, leaning back into the bass. I post beautiful poems with my photos because I can't write my own poetry anymore. There's too much dirty laundry in the air. I look at the 8 miniature photos of the bassoonist, feeling disconnected. Should I send him a friendship request? I want to be liked as if I am not. Am I unlikable? I'm not sure anymore what I am. Maybe I'm a banshee. My partner told me that I'm the most controlling person he knows. I don't know what to do with that information. I'm less sure why it hurts so badly. You're just like your mother, he said. I messaged my sisters, careful to post to the correct group. My father is in Dads and Daughters, but in Sisters No Dad, we discuss our parents. This week, I asked Dad, what line must be crossed before Mum gets additional care? How will you know when it's time to sign her in at Murambi House? My father's tone is aggrieved. You don't put somebody away because they've become an inconvenience. His words sting. Maybe I really am a terrible person. My mother was a banshee. Now she's a hooligan eating jam straight out the tin, leaving runnels of gob on the spoon, which she returns to the tin. She coughs until she retches. She swigs straight from the bottle, saying, "Whiskey is the water of life." She raids the fridge for yogurt and custard. She steals sweets in the shops. In a sour voice, she points at me, telling Dad that he can sleep with this nice young lady if he likes. She can't hold her bowels, but refuses adult diapers. I want things like they were before lockdown, when I played in the Philharmonic, when my parents attended final rehearsals on Thursday mornings in the City Hall, when I didn't feel queasy at the sight of my mother, when she smelled nice, and I didn't reach for the wine when they came for dinner. I want things neat again, convenient. I wish I were playing with 7 other players in the dark, listening to the whole, moving as one. The next piece is called A Fork, a Pat of Butter. 30 plants a week for a healthy mind. My sister in Switzerland is telling me about her new goal. I count 10 fresh herbs and 3 fruits growing in the garden: sage, basil, parsley, rosemary, chives, mint, marjoram, thyme, chili, bay leaves. Also granadella, gooseberries, strawberries, more than we can harvest. I'm in love with the high summer, rich with the bounty. The vegetable boxes overflow with spinach, kale, tomatoes, potato, butternut, brinjals, asparagus, and beans. Sunniness is not in my nature, nor are sums, but I go through my list, counting on my fingers, and I arrive at, I check again. The dried herb drawer opens to bori, coriander, jeera, cloves, curry, celery seeds, cinnamon, nutmeg, mustard, star anise, nigella, the bright orange paella spice. The name escapes me. I've changed to vegetarian to rescue my memory. That's 24 plants already. Some days while hanging laundry, I try counting backwards from 100, subtracting 7 each time. On the kitchen windowsill, lentils, chickpeas, and mung beans sprout reliably, joyfully, plentifully. I rinse them daily to prevent mold forming in the moist heat. That takes me up to 35. My vegetable drawers are groaning with cucumbers, carrots, beetroot, sweet potato, peppers, cauliflower, cabbage. That's up to 42. I'm drowning in vegetables, and I haven't even added the nuts, sesame, flax, sunflower seeds. A beggar at the gate asks for a tin of food. I make him a sandwich, offer him an apple. My daughter is hungry, has been for years. When she eats fast food. I'm trying to stay afloat in this goodness, yearning to root myself in gratitude, but aching at the hunger around me. My daughter turns 30 soon. I try to remember when she stopped eating, maybe when she was 13 or 12, more than half her life. How could I forget? The next piece is called We Are Legion. Keep it up, big boy. Recovery is hard to do. One slip could be fatal. Each step back from the slippery slope, and you're closer to where you must go. Put on your clothes. Worry not about ironing. Sweep the house clean, but do it only once. Don't get trapped by laundry. Copy lyrics onto a piece of paper, folded in your wallet, even if it's empty, especially if it is. Sing the words until you believe them. I've got all my life to live, and I've got all my love to give, and I'll survive. I will survive. Wear your grandfather's cufflinks. Gratitude will save your life. You're just a late bloomer, like that poor schlub in the Bible coming down from a bad trip. Maybe if Jesus had stopped by a week or a month later, self-care would have been back in place, and that herd of gathering swine would not have dived headlong into the lake. At least there'd be no conflict between the church fathers and animal rights activists based on that particular exorcism. Don't obsess about good juju and bad. Addiction is epigenetic. Demons are everywhere, but you needn't offer them caviar. Behavior is learned. Self-care starts with chocolate. Healing is real. If somebody wants to give you a titanium hip, write a new liturgy and say thank you. Be your own priest. This is a poem about coaching novices in rowing. I teach women to row at the Alfred's Rowing Club at Sekufle, which is where I live. And this is a two-part conversation, the external one and the internal one, which if you look at it, it's written in two, I write in regular print and then in italics. Mind the slipway. I've been told I'm scary. I try to sound less bossy when I prompt my crew. Stand tall, hips over ankles, shoulders over hips. At least I put them in height order so the boat's weight distributes evenly. It's not hard to figure this out, but nobody does it. So too often the tall girls get stuck in the middle, carrying more than their fair share, straining their backs. Use your core to lift. Set your scaps when you carry. Navel to spine. Walk in time. How many times must I say this? Walk in time with the girl up front to eliminate boat bounce. Why is this important? Boat bounce bruises your shoulders. Doesn't it hurt enough already? Slow down on the jetty. Take little steps. The non-slip coating has worn away. In summer, the algae thrives and blooms. Entering the water is like walking on soap. Feel for traction underfoot before shifting your weight. Easy does it. The yacht club is nearly bankrupt. They don't have staff to sweep the slipway and nobody volunteers. Last week at a regatta, a kid carrying a boat slipped, landing on her elbow on the concrete. The hull landed on her sternum. As I watched her go down, I thought her head would split like a melon. My stomach turned to jelly thinking about it. Turns to jelly thinking about it. Hands across, above heads, lift, roll to waists, gently into the water. Should I say please? The concrete ending to the right of the entry point is invisible below the water. A sharp edge catches me mid-foot every time I step into the mud. Mind the skeg on the hard, don't mind the leeches. We damaged a skeg at the last regatta, putting it down in rough water. Halfway up to the start line, the boat began to sink. Off the water, we discovered the skeg had ripped open the hull. Open the gates where you are. Mind your fingers. Feet and gate face forward. Why is that stroke oar in the bow side oarlock? Yippee, I have not actually screamed at anybody yet. Pop the end of your sleeve over your thumb to check for sand in the rails. This boat could be called Lazarus. It was seriously damaged in the accident which killed 2 UCT students towing the trailer. This boat, ladies, is called Sheshamanzi. It's Zulu for rushing water. So we'll be going fast, right? If you'll make it your business to ensure that we're not in a whippoorwill, I will be eternally grateful. Swirl the mud off your feet before getting in. Butt on the seat, shoe up, number from bow when ready. Can we go yet? The next poem is called Tonight I Will Chew Slowly. The Lime Tree Cafe was my favorite place when I ate meat. You forgot your hearing aids. I am grumpy with hunger. You say you love the sharpness of hunger. I don't quite believe you. Hunger reminds me of the high school I attended with your daughter. Low blood sugar, eating under the desk, ashamed of my urge, swallowing unchewed to avoid being caught. You are proud of withstanding hunger. You brag about it, like running the Comrades Marathon.
It's a long poem.
The waitress gushes about the pork belly smothered in smoked paprika. You hear Jew. I grind my teeth at your fulsome bonhomie. I am careful, empty. I want dripping, sizzling hunks of beef. I am not cheerful. I want blood and fat, saliva and grunts. I resent choosing between vegan and vegan. Under the table, you rest your hand on my thigh. My pulse slows. My chest opens. I will survive the chickpeas. I might even laugh with the wine. Have I overstayed my welcome, Jacques?
Not yet. If you have another one, you can do another one. It's up to you.
I do. Okay, right. This one was based on a prompt in a writing workshop that I did with Kathy Fish, where there was a news headline called "Scientists Turn Spinach Leaf into Beating Human Heart Cells." And there was a fabulous graphic of a heart, a green heart. You try explaining that they can be singular. I want to say, don't believe everything you read on the internet. You're on speakerphone as I walk into the garden where the vegetable boxes now sprout asparagus and beans, potatoes and aubergines. Blood of my blood, son of my womb, last week I cut aloe leaves and crushed them to make a healing potion to cure my heart. Why can I not accept that you are they, that you are a woman, but you don't spell it that way. You spell it women with an X, which I can comprehend no more than I can comprehend that cholesterol and blood pressure levels, my cholesterol and blood pressure levels alarm my doctor. The Wi-Fi reception is sketchy, but I want to show you the blossoms on the butternut vine. You tell me that scientists have turned a spinach leaf into beating human heart cells. Leaf heart, heart leaf, my heart leaf. The thickened spinach base is a rough tuft now, 2 seasons old. The new leaves are smaller, barely unfurl before hanging limply, all dried out. Tiny eggs on the back of the kale are shimmery pearls. I no longer bother to wash them off before sizzling them in the pan. I, who am now vegan, find a spinach heart more likely than sunrise at midnight. I, who am still a woman, cannot fit this horse of your madness into the palm of my hand. I want to tell you that the limes from the street stall are my new favorite flavor, better even than the nachi. I want to tell you that I eat sunflower seeds and I have learned to roast sesame seeds to make tahini. I want to urge you to get good flavors that will return you to yourself. Depression and nutrition and neuroscience, that's what I read on the internet. I want to say, blood of my leaves, flower of my womb, the ground is wet and I love you, whoever you are. The deluge is here, wet, wet, but the skies are dry.
I wonder if we're going
The last piece that I'd like to read is called Glass. I am channeling my real mother to discuss my brew of sorrows. A child who can't tell me what's wrong but attacks my belief, the other child who refuses treatment, who gets thinner each time I see her, who talks a language outside my lexicon. My real mother zooms in on the issues with clarity and kindness. She asks the right questions. Stand fast, she says. Listen in, stay close, suspend all judgment, live the questions. My other mother fingers my green glass necklace. I took it off after my last concert and left it on the dining room table. She picks it up and holds it to her nose, sniffing the beads. She turns to my father saying, "Is this mine?" He says no in a firm voice. "Put them down." She bumbles off to the bathroom, even though she flushed the toilet 10 minutes ago and 10 minutes before that. I keep talking to my real mother as I enter my tiny cubicle of perspex. She says, "Breathe and focus," as I hunker between the music stand and the chair with no place to go. The conductor is so far away, I can't hear what he says. My real mother says, "Try lip reading." I die a little at all this, yet I soar for playing again. I take photographs in the test sections, trying to capture the smallness of these bizarre bubbles, the reflection of the trombones behind me. Nothing I do can show their expansive laughter in the photograph. Beside me, the double basses play with masks on. I still can't manage to read with my glasses and a mask. My real mother says, Put your phone away now and focus. When I get home, my necklace is gone. I know where to find it, but I text my father saying it's hers now if she likes it so much. He sends me a smiling photo. The green beads dance on her collarbone, saying, go, go. A murmuration of swallows flies over the water at dusk, catching muggies and mosquitoes. All those hatchlings left the nest, says my real mother. Bats swoop in as the light drops. My real mother says, some problems aren't yours to fix.
Thank you so much. See lots of hands clapping out there in the audience. That was a beautiful reading. I really enjoyed that. Thank you.
Thank you for hosting.
If you're up for some questions, I'm going to just pause this. So, yeah, this year we decided to have, or this is our first year, but we decided to have a poetry competition because finding avenues for poetry in South Africa is a little bit few and far between, or not as much as one would like. So giving poets an opportunity to submit their work was something that we wanted to do so that we could provide another avenue for people to share their work. And as judges, we had a lot of fun reading the poems and then spent a few hours discussing and analyzing and debating which ones should make our shortlist. We'd initially planned to have a shortlist of 10, but we couldn't narrow it down to 10, so we chose 11. We had 63 submissions, which we were very pleased about. And from these 11, we obviously have to choose those who get prizes, but all of them will be published on our blog, so you can read them all again then. And for those of you who haven't read the shortlist yet, in no particular order, the poets that made it through to the shortlist were Jane Borling with the poem Made Way, Ian Bell with Organ of Remorse, Sherry Dyer with Contact Art, Gail Dendy with After Lockdown, Felelani Makanya with A Whistle at Dusk, Kwali with Return to Tsolobeng, Stephanie Saunders with The Garden of Earthly Delights, Karen Shimker with A Very Old Story, Stephen Simons with Small Souls, Jared Thompson with Morning in the Cemetery, and Sue Woodward with Pandora's Box. Interestingly enough, the four of us went through the poems individually first and came up with our own top 10 before we met and discussed further. And there were 5 poems that all 4 of us had already picked. So those, of course, had to make it onto the list. And then from there, it was a case of deciding which ones won which prize. We couldn't settle on only 3. So we decided to share the 3rd prize, or to have 2 third place winners rather. And the 2 poems that placed 3rd jointly were Ian Bell with Organ of Remorse and Kwali with Return to Tsolobeng. Congratulations. I'm going to ask Ian if you're willing to read first, if you'd read your poem for us. If you want to share your screen, you have got that option as well. And then Kwali, I'll call on you next. We'll just need to, there we go.
Thank you, Melissa. Do you have it? Are you able to share it on your screen?
Yeah, if you give me 1 second.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind if you do that, please.
Just open it.
Sorry to be a nuisance. You don't
That's
have to.
fine, no problem. Should have had that ready. Yeah. All right, let me share my screen. There we go. Can you see that?
Right. Okay, here it is. Organ of remorse. Yesterday, I drowned a rat, or rather, failed to rescue it from the rain barrel, when that is the singular thing it needed. Had it been a mouse, say, or a shrew, a vole, or a seriously misdirected mole, any rodent cousin with anxious paws, like a little brown widow who'd lost her handbag, fine. Then I'd not have hesitated to offer it a twig, but not a damn big rat. There I draw the line. In school biology, we'd opened one with a scalpel, and I'd looked among the damp, glistening coils for some part of it to blame, for the great plagues, for the pestering of flesh from corpses in wars, the scaly tail looking like the pickpocket implement of someone who rigs races, sells stolen cars, takes good watches off drunks in bars, and then puzzled all night about which part of me harbored such callousness. Had places been reversed, my thin-toed feet scrambling useless on a course of sinking leaves, would any rat have cared to look in me for an organ of remorse? Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. We loved that poem so much. Thank you for sending it to us. And all the poems will obviously be published on our blog, so you're welcome to look out for that and reread it. Kwali, would you like to read your poem for us, please?
Hi.
Hi.
Okay. Return to Tolobeng. Two cubs in hands, one with open eyes, the other asleep. I'm placing them in my mother's palms, tougher than mine to shield them. I'm going to the mountains for a while, where two old women wait for me, outside a green hut, guarded by brown horses, at the top of a hidden mountain, overlooking an old river full of queens and secrets. The two old women will only watch me as I build, with hands covered in manure to cast walls to find me. And I will sleep only to visit the elders, but I will wake with the ones that do not speak, to save my children from a life without rivers and mountains, and horses and quiet, and land and snow, and a mother. I will wake each day despite the urge to stay on the other side, to build a home in Tolobeng. So I teach my children what is in a name. So a life of color is not that of complexion. So a life of wealth is not that of the tangibles. So that each click that comes out of my mouth has a root with a home they can call their own. I have been missing for a while, long before this trip. And sometimes a mother needs to return home to be a mother, because sometimes this place can make you forget how to be human, how to feed a child and be nowhere else, how to look at a child with open eyes, which turns you took that cut wires in you because you are on an edge. And the mind is screaming and they are screaming and the world is screaming. And if you say one more word or take one more wrong turn, whatever colorful string is holding your body together with your soul will unravel. I'm going back to Tolobeng, back to my ancestors' land, where truth and sanity wait in whispers.
Incredible, so powerful, and so powerful to hear you read it. Thank you. Congratulations, everyone. Please give a round of hands, whether they're virtual or physical, for our two poets. We are so thrilled to have had these poems. Thank you for being here. And then in second place, this poet almost took their poem out of the running, but thank goodness they didn't, because we all loved it. Gail Dendy, After Lockdown, was incredible. If you'd unmute yourself and appear on our screen to read it, please.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, let me just get to mine. Just gotta move this. After lockdown, things will be different then. You will not be locked down in another town. I will touch you as if I'd known you centuries ago, as if we'd been drawn as miniatures, twinned with a silver clasp. Things will be different then. I tell you, the sun will not set over Italy when we travel there. The gondolas in Venice will always be waiting for us, their prows like swans' necks, black swans. Your skin will still be beautiful. You will kiss me. We will open windows, doors, unlatch our shining lives. Our children will fit perfectly in their beds. The sun will have forgotten how to set. Things will be different then.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This is great.
And then, I suppose, without further ado, our winning poem was a unanimous decision. All four of us individually selected it as the winner without even having to speak about it. So that, I think, says something, because we are four different poets with different tastes and different experiences, and yet this poem spoke universally to all of us. It's a poem called Small Souls, Stephen Simons. Congratulations.
Hi there, good evening.
Hey.
Thanks so much, Melissa. I suppose I better read the poem.
You can say something if you want to, but you're welcome to read it too.
Well, thanks so much to everyone at Red Wheelbarrow Poetry for choosing my poem. In fact, I thought when I'd initially written the poem, I thought it wouldn't go anywhere. And I read it to my good friend Colin Sol, and he said to me, Stephen, that's a hell of a poem. Read it publicly. And I did. I think I think it was for the first time I think I read it publicly was at the Red Wheelbarrow reading I gave, which was well received. So thank you. Thanks again, everybody. So let me read it. Small souls, forgive me. I know today is the day of your funeral, but I cannot write for you, and I've forgotten how to offer a prayer for the dead. A soft wind has taken you impossibly far from here, so I write for the insignificance of an ant that is about to be burnt by a child with a magnifying glass. I write for the coming thirst of the rat and the inquisitive mouse with its back broken by a kitchen trap. I write for the flame-colored vixen, cornered by a dozen hounds, and for the top-heavy bear, the sheer weight of her hairiness, swaying in anger, and the 4 cubs at her feet, burnt from their den by happy hunters. I write for the soaked lace wings of a dragonfly's drowning in a swimming pool and the bee's last journey to the rose. I write for the Gothic madness of a fly trapped behind the stained glass solitude of the cathedral, and I write for a stray cat walking in ever-slowing circles with an arrow through its neck. I write for the teat-heavy bitch being stoned by a trap of boys on a highway. I write for the concrete and straw lives of the lamb, the sow, and the cow awaiting the abattoir's bolt, and the fence-line lope of a lion tamed for the trophy room. I want to be a taxidermist for the soul of the earthworm, the caged finch, and flailing octopus in a fisherman's bait bucket. I want to display their lives from birth to death, from the nest until it is swept up by the ceaseless hurricane. I want to place the smallest of souls, of spiders, squirrels, and swallows, in glass and mahogany cabinets covered in children's fingerprints, in a museum of great sadness. I will use an antique typewriter to type the stories of their irrelevance on cardboard labels that tell of pain beyond our bodies. Later, I will step out into the inconsolable cold and offer a sigh instead of a prayer into that dark hall of night. I'll walk towards a far-off door, opening to a new day that is forever shifting out of reach and deeper into the murk. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen.
Thanks, everybody.
I'd like to give an honorable mention to the other poem that the four of us selected unanimously, which just didn't make it into the prize winners, but nonetheless deserves a special mention, and that is Sherry Dyer's poem, Contact Art. Sherry, if you'd like to kick us off with your reading, we'd love to hear it.
Sure, thank you. Thank you for the honorable mention. So I'm going to share the screen if that's okay. Is that working? Okay. The first 2 days were bright, and then the fog rolled in across the bay, and there we were, gone. And just the edge of the lagoon remained, but it stayed warm, so we stayed out, shadows of ourselves. My littlest one, a watercolor blossom in his pink and purple swimsuit, dancing, just as if the foghorn was not grieving all the vessels lost before today, their slow tilt into waves, then into sand, but also perhaps some safely landed ships. Like one soaked into rock, red ochre sails at Porterville, 3 days away, walking from the sea. But in the mountains there, that galleon, triple-masted, floats. 300 years since a fleeing artist ground pigment from the earth, painted what was coming, what was already there, the strangers, arms akimbo, and what she did not, could not paint, invisibly secreted in the blankets, alien life, snug and ready for their new adventure, the smallest pioneers, the germs, time on their side and riding high into the hinterland.
Thank you, beautiful, amazing poem. Thank you for participating. Jane Balling, would you like to read your shortlisted poem, please? It's called Made Way.
Okay, I will do. Thank you. Made way. Made way 1,000 greens, sharp in spring, then mellow, that dressed the hills, chopped, a brutal felling, ancient roots wrenched from soil by machines that screamed, made way for stripped down brown slopes, spiked with 1,000 macadamia saplings, made way bushbuck and dacres, all shades and many sizes of mongoose, and vervet monkeys fled before the push to prosper, made way a steep bank where bee-eaters nested, Made way forest buzzards and fish eagles, bereft of tall trees, their absence calls a gaping silence. Made way. Thank you.
Thank you. Felelani Makanya, I don't know if he is here, with his poem A Whistle at Dusk. I think he's not here anymore. He did let us know that he might not have network coverage that would allow him to join us. So in that case, I'm going to ask Nondwe if she would read his poem on his behalf, please.
All right, good evening, everyone. So I'll just get on with the reading. So I think I'll share my screen, just so that we have the poem. Share there. There we go. A Whistle at Dusk. At dusk, an old lady jumps off from a bus. She snails on the bus steps like she's a resident, like she's resisting the descent, like the bus arrived at her bus stop too soon. She left at dawn to queue for her pension grant. Like a committed guard, her teenage son is already waiting at the gate. She walks towards him like she is crossing a bridge made of thatch ropes and broken glass. She dips her hand between her breasts. She pulls a worn-out leather purse. The grandson's hand is hawk, a predator for all things paper. He pulls out a stack of banknotes from the purse. The old lady casts puppy eyes on his grandson. The grandson's eyes parade untamable lava. He throws the empty purse back at his grandmother's face. The old lady walks towards her house like she's in a quagmire of shadows. She wishes her mud rendezvous hut can run and meet her halfway. Even tonight, she will be boiling stone for dinner as her grandson walks victoriously down the street, whistling, calling for his gang. Thank you.
Thanks, Nondwe. Thank you to Felelani in his absence. Steph, I think you are here. Stephanie Saunders with The Garden of Earthly Delights, which was a fabulously funny poem. You're still muted, Steph. There we go.
Okay, right. The Garden of Earthly Delights. The medieval Garden of Earthly Delights includes mythical figures, mythical creatures, big fish and birds. There's a gyre of livestock and a group of thin, pale, naked people tangled in an awkward orgy, which also involves fruit, and many other objects, the meanings of which are lost to us. This is shown in a cryptic triptych, flanked by a panel with Adam and Eve and God in Eden, pre-serpent on the left, with more fantastic shapes and figures. Hell, on the other side, includes severed ears, darkness, demons, fire, instruments of music and torture, and a pale self-portrait of the artist, Hieronymus Bosch, peering out from behind a shell limb branch thing. 500 years on, our modern earthly delights would be just as incomprehensible to him. Symbols of wealth, status, power, fashion, sport, entertainment, luxury cars, travel, lifestyle. The orgies would be more explicit, maybe with less fruit. The creation panel, an abstract painting, an expression of the Big Bang. On the right, the panel depicting hell would be a problem. People nowadays create their own. Thank you.
Thank you. Corinne Shimke unfortunately couldn't be with us this evening, but she sent us a video recording of her poem, A Very Old Story. So I'm going to share that next.
Hi, my name is Karen Shimke. My poem is called A Very Old Story. Have I told you the story of my mother's mouth? My mother's weeping mouth, toothless in pain, her mouth wounds, the bleeding palate, the blood on her chin, the blisters, the clear run of the sores on her gums, her lips swollen. During that time, she lost all her coordinates, but pushed back hard at the dark from the blur of the pain and the blue blindness of her eyes without glasses. Of her bed of days, of her sleeping, the light heavy on and onness of rest, I hoped, would heal what had hurt her, the mouth of my mother, my mother's mouth. On the 9th day of that time, resurrected like the unremarkable miracle of every woman whose luck ran out when she married, my mother spoke from a mouth that had been broken. Her sentences were clean as hospital sheets. No, I have not told you about my mother's mouth. It is a story longer than her own life.
Charles. Thanks for the enthusiastic claps, Charles. Jared Thompson, Morning in the Cemetery. Would you like to share your poem, please? Are you still with us, Jared? Looks like not, so then I will read it for you. Let me share my screen with it. Sorry, give me a sec. Morning in the Cemetery. The sun ekes, sober over the koppie, stoops low through grass, around rock, into dust kicked up by crickets. Granite, designated in rows, chops the light into teeth, grinning, pale yellow between minor keys of shadow. The gates are locked, fences erect, still. What is there to protect? Names carved in stone or philtrums passed through worms. Here's the dutiful line of ants, erasing these imprints. Here's varnished wood, left tarnished. The last thing we see must always be our own shining. The thorn trees know their burgundy seed sacks are bound for more, wineskins ripe for bursting. The new digger on the job, the one who follows the veteran out into early morning, is somehow already familiar with that soft earth shoveling. Shh, shh, shh. Its own kind of cooing.
Oops.
And last but not least, Sue Woodward with Pandora's Box. I hope you're still here.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Pandora's Box. The box is barely noticeable in the detritus of a stalled canal. A picker seeking brass pries at the hinges. They give way under an inner pressure. The lid shifts to reveal a slit of dark through which a mass of scuttling creatures clamber. Front runners, jostling, elbowing, shoving, flying into the grey pre-dawn. Uncreasing, stingers unsheathed. They cover the globe at speed, piercing the masks of pickers, politicians, dancers, philosophers, men at the side of the road, women who set off daily, children alone at home.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you everyone for listening, and stop the recording.